My beloved brothers and sisters, today I speak to hearts that are heavy, eyes that have wept, and souls that ache for the cries of our brothers and sisters in Gaza. What we witness is not just a political crisis, it is a test of our humanity, our compassion, and our faith. When the innocent are bombed, when children are buried under rubble, and when the world turns a blind eye, we must ask ourselves, where do we stand? Because neutrality in the face of injustice is not neutrality at all. It is silence that strengthens the oppressor. Every believer is called to stand for truth and justice. The world may be divided by borders, but our hearts are united by faith and humanity. When one child suffers in Gaza, the pain should echo in every corner of the earth. Our responsibility does not end with words or sympathy. It begins with awareness, continues with advocacy, and lives on through prayer and sincere effort. Speak when others stay silent. Raise your voice when others whisper. Because one voice for truth is louder than 1,000 voices of indifference. We must never allow our hearts to grow numb to oppression. Every drop of blood spilled unjustly should stir our conscience. Do not think your dua, your sharing of truth, or your charity is small. Every sincere effort done for the sake of the Almighty is mighty in His eyes. What we cannot reach with our hands, we can reach with our hearts. When the people of Gaza cry out, their cries ascend to the heavens, and Allah never ignores the prayers of the oppressed. My brothers and sisters, our pain must not turn into despair, it must turn into purpose. Let the tragedy awaken your compassion. Let it remind you that this world is temporary and the true home of peace is with the Almighty. When we see the injustice, we do not respond with hatred. We respond with steadfastness, patience, and faith. Because hatred only fuels the fire of division, but love and justice extinguish it. Do not let the world make you forget the power of mercy. Our strength lies in unity. When believers across the world stand together, pray together, and speak with one voice, the message shakes the walls of tyranny. The oppressors may have weapons and power, but we have truth, and truth is eternal. They may destroy homes, but they can never destroy faith. They may silence voices, but they can never silence the cry of justice that rises from the heart of every believer. And remember, true victory is not measured by land or numbers. True victory belongs to those who remain upright, even when the world around them crumbles. The people of Gaza have taught us courage, patience, and dignity in the face of impossible odds. They have shown us that faith can shine even in the darkest night. So let us honor them not with pity, but with prayer, with unity, and with action. Let us carry their story to the world, from every pulpit, every platform, and every heart. The duty of every believer to stand for justice and humanity is a divine responsibility that transcends nationality, race, and personal interest. Faith is not only about prayer and rituals, it is also about embodying the principles of compassion, fairness, and moral courage in the face of oppression. When injustice spreads and silence prevails, the believer's heart should tremble with concern, for faith without a stand for justice is incomplete. The essence of belief lies in recognizing that all human beings are part of one creation, and when one part of the body is in pain, the whole body feels the ache. To stand for justice means to align one's actions, speech, and intention with truth, no matter how unpopular or dangerous that truth may be. It is to speak when silence becomes a sin, and to act when inaction becomes complicity. The call to stand for humanity does not mean taking sides in politics. It means taking the side of what is right, what is fair, and what aligns with divine principles. The Almighty commands believers to stand firmly for justice, even if it be against themselves or their own people. This command teaches that truth is not defined by tribe or territory, but by conscience and moral clarity. In the case of Gaza, the duty extends beyond sympathy. It is about seeing every child, mother, and elder as part of the same human family. Their pain is our pain, their cries are our cries, and their struggle is a reminder of our shared obligation to protect life, dignity, and peace. To turn away or remain neutral is to allow injustice to thrive unchecked. The believer's strength lies not in weapons or wealth, but in moral integrity and the courage to defend what is right. History shows that societies that stand for justice rise with honor, while those that turn a blind eye fall into disgrace. Justice is the foundation of peace, and peace cannot exist where oppression is allowed to grow. When we stand for justice, we not only protect the oppressed, but also purify our own souls, because injustice anywhere contaminates the conscience of everyone. The Almighty loves those who stand firm in fairness, who speak the truth even when it is against their own comfort, and who defend the weak when the world ignores them. Every believer must see their voice, their prayer, and their actions as tools for good. Speaking against injustice, sharing awareness, offering support, and making sincere supplication are all forms of standing for justice. It does not require grand gestures but sincere intentions and consistent effort. When a believer refuses to tolerate injustice, they reflect the light of faith in a dark world. To stand for humanity is to live with empathy, to see beyond borders, and to uphold the sacred value of every life. It is to be the voice of reason when others are blinded by hate, and the beacon of mercy when the world is lost in cruelty. Silence in the face of oppression is one of the greatest betrayals of faith and humanity. When injustice unfolds before our eyes and we choose to remain quiet, we allow cruelty to grow and truth to fade. The essence of belief is not only to acknowledge right and wrong in the heart, but to speak and act upon it. Remaining silent when others are suffering is a form of passive approval that strengthens the hand of the oppressor. Faith calls upon every believer to rise against wrongdoing, not just through physical resistance, but through moral courage and vocal truth. The Almighty despises those who see injustice and do nothing, for silence becomes a weapon in the hands of tyranny. Every generation faces moments where silence defines the difference between light and darkness, between those who stood with truth and those who hid in fear. Oppression does not always begin with violence. It begins with the silence of good people. When the innocent are bombed, when their voices are silenced, when truth is distorted by propaganda, and the world looks away, the moral fabric of humanity is torn. To remain silent is to declare comfort more important than conscience. History has shown time and again that great injustices flourished not because the oppressors were powerful, but because the righteous were quiet. Silence is not neutrality, it is a choice that carries consequences. Every word left unspoken for truth allows a lie to grow stronger. Every act of indifference becomes fuel for cruelty to expand. The believer's responsibility is not only to condemn oppression but to awaken others to its reality, to remind the world that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Faith is a light meant to expose darkness, not to coexist with it. The one who believes in truth must have the courage to declare it, even when it is unpopular or dangerous. The Prophet's message throughout history was not one of silence, but of fearless truth. Standing up for the oppressed is not an option, it is an obligation rooted deeply in spiritual conviction. When the people of Gaza suffer and the world watches in silence, it is not only their hearts that bleed, but also the collective conscience of humanity. Silence in such times is not peacekeeping. It is an act of surrender to injustice. The voice of truth must rise even if it trembles, for the Almighty supports those who speak with sincerity and justice. Those who fear speaking out must remember that every voice counts. Even the smallest act of truth has the power to shake the foundations of falsehood. Speaking for justice does not require eloquence or fame. It requires compassion and faith. Each believer has a moral duty to break the silence, to amplify the cries of the oppressed, and to remind the world of its humanity. Silence may protect one from worldly discomfort, but it distances the soul from divine favor. When we speak against oppression, we not only defend the weak, but also preserve the honor of faith itself. Compassion and collective prayer for those suffering in Gaza are not merely acts of sympathy, but profound expressions of faith and unity. When people endure pain and loss beyond imagination, the believer's heart cannot remain untouched. Compassion is the heartbeat of faith, the reflection of divine mercy within the human soul. It is through compassion that we connect with others, even when we are far apart. The suffering of Gaza is not distant. It lives within every heart that believes in justice and humanity. Every tear shed, every prayer whispered, and every sincere thought offered in their name carries immense spiritual weight. When believers come together in prayer for those in distress, it creates a force of light that transcends borders and defies oppression. The Almighty listens to the cries of His servants, and when millions lift their hands in unison, no tyrant can silence that plea. Collective prayer is a reminder that we are never powerless, even when the world seems dark. It is an act of spiritual resistance, a declaration that faith is stronger than fear, and that mercy is more powerful than might. When the world witnesses destruction, believers respond with supplication, because prayer is the weapon of the righteous. It aligns the soul with divine will and gives strength to the weary. Every moment spent in remembrance, every drop of a tear in prayer, becomes a shield for those who suffer. Compassion transforms into intercession, and intercession transforms into action. Prayer is not only a call for divine intervention, but a renewal of commitment to do our part. To give, to speak, to stand, and to care. True compassion is not confined to emotion. It is reflected in deeds. To pray for Gaza means to also strive for justice in daily life, to support their cause in word and in spirit, and to refuse to normalize their suffering. Compassion calls for awareness, charity, and advocacy. It means sharing their story when others try to silence it, giving to relief efforts when others look away, and remembering their struggle when the world grows distracted. The believer's heart should ache for the oppressed, for such pain softens the soul and brings one closer to the Creator. The Almighty's mercy descends upon those who show mercy to His creation. To care for the people of Gaza is to reflect a portion of that divine mercy, to be a vessel of hope when despair seems overwhelming. When believers unite in compassion and prayer, they form a wall of spiritual strength. This unity sends a message to the world that oppression may destroy homes, but it cannot destroy faith. It may silence voices, but it cannot silence prayer. Every voice raised in supplication is a spark that lights the darkness. Compassion keeps humanity alive, and prayer keeps faith unbroken. Together, they remind the oppressed that they are not forgotten, that their pain is shared, and that the Almighty's mercy is always near. Pain is one of life's greatest teachers. And when it is transformed into purpose, it becomes a source of strength rather than despair. In the context of Gaza, the suffering witnessed daily is not meant to break the spirit of believers, but to awaken their conscience. Pain has a way of softening hearts, tearing away layers of indifference, and exposing the truth that comfort can often blind us to. When we see children struggling for survival, families torn apart, and entire communities enduring unimaginable hardship, We are reminded that our blessings are not rights but responsibilities. The pain of others becomes our test, and our response to it defines our humanity. To transform pain into purpose means not to dwell in sorrow but to rise with conviction. It means using the awareness of suffering as fuel for compassion, advocacy, and prayer. The believer understands that nothing happens without divine wisdom, and even in the midst of destruction, there is an opportunity to rekindle faith and unity. Awareness without action is empty, and emotion without purpose is fleeting. When one becomes aware of injustice, it demands a reaction guided by conscience and morality. The scenes from Gaza should not only move our emotions but move our hearts toward change. It should inspire us to educate others, to challenge false narratives, and to extend our hands in charity. Pain can make one bitter or better. The choice lies in how it is embraced. The believer channels pain into perseverance, grief into gratitude, and awareness into advocacy. It is through such transformation that oppression loses its power, because it cannot extinguish the moral awakening it triggers. Every tragedy has the potential to either divide or unite people. And it is through purposeful action that the faithful turn grief into a force for good. The people of Gaza themselves are a living testament to this truth. Despite their suffering, they continue to stand with dignity and faith. Their resilience inspires the world and reminds us that strength does not come from comfort, but from courage. When their pain becomes our awareness, and our awareness becomes our purpose, a chain of compassion forms that no oppressor can break. Standing for Gaza is not just about supporting a people, it is about reviving the values that define humanity: justice, empathy, and moral courage. Each person who allows their awareness to become action contributes to a collective awakening that shapes the conscience of nations. Transformation begins with understanding that pain is not meaningless. It is a call to wake up, to act, and to connect hearts. The Almighty allows hardship not to destroy, but to direct us toward righteousness. When believers respond to pain with purpose, they defeat hopelessness and reflect the beauty of faith in action. The tears we shed for the oppressed should water the seeds of change. Awareness becomes sacred when it leads to action, and pain becomes powerful when it births compassion. Hope, patience, and unity are the lifelines of faith, especially in moments when darkness surrounds the world. When believers witness oppression and suffering, it is easy for despair to creep in, for the heart to feel heavy and powerless. Yet faith teaches that even in the bleakest times, hope must never die. Hope is not denial of reality. It is belief in divine justice that transcends human understanding. It reminds us that the Almighty is never unaware of the cries of the oppressed, and every injustice will one day meet its reckoning. Hope is the flame that keeps faith alive, and when believers hold on to it, they resist the despair that the oppressor seeks to spread. It is this hope that has kept the people of Gaza standing tall despite their pain. For they believe that their suffering is seen, their prayers are heard, and their endurance will not be in vain. Patience is the twin of hope, and together they shape the character of the faithful. Patience does not mean passivity or indifference. It means steadfastness in doing good, perseverance in the face of hardship, and trust in the timing of the Almighty. The Quran reminds believers that victory comes with patience and ease follows hardship. The trials faced by the people of Gaza and by all those enduring oppression remind us that every difficulty has a purpose. Through patience, one gains strength that is beyond human measure. It is patience that turns pain into resilience and endurance into spiritual growth. To be patient is to resist the urge for bitterness and revenge, and to remain grounded in dignity and faith. It is a silent strength often unseen by the world, but fully known by the Creator. Unity, meanwhile, is the force that gives hope and patience their power. Without unity, even the strongest intentions fade and the most righteous causes weaken. The oppressors thrive when people are divided, but they fear a world that stands together for justice. Believers are called to unite beyond differences of language, race, or background, for injustice against one is an injustice against all. Unity amplifies the voice of truth, turns compassion into movement, and transforms prayer into collective power. When hearts come together, miracles unfold. The people of Gaza need not only sympathy but solidarity, a unity that transcends words and manifests in action. Every believer who prays, speaks, gives, or stands for them becomes part of that divine unity that frustrates the plans of those who seek to destroy. Hope gives purpose to endurance, patience gives strength to faith, and unity gives power to compassion. When these three come together, despair has no place to dwell. Even in the ruins of war, believers can see the light of divine wisdom. Hope reminds us that the night will end, patience helps us walk through it with grace, and unity ensures that no one walks alone. Through these virtues, the faithful become unbreakable, for their strength comes not from the world, but from the one who created it. True victory is not defined by power, wealth, or control, but by the unwavering commitment to righteousness even in the face of loss. The world often measures success through material achievements or dominance, yet faith teaches a deeper truth, that real triumph belongs to those who remain just compassionate and steadfast no matter how severe the trials. The oppressors of any age may appear strong, their armies vast and their influence widespread, but their victories are hollow because they are built upon injustice. True victory is moral, spiritual, and eternal. It is found in standing for truth when others bow to falsehood, in showing mercy when hatred surrounds, and in keeping faith when despair tempts the heart to give up. When people suffer but remain firm in their belief, they are not defeated, They are refined. Their endurance becomes a testimony of their faith, and their perseverance becomes a lesson for generations to come. The people of Gaza embody this truth through their unbreakable spirit. They have faced destruction, loss, and unimaginable hardship, yet they have not surrendered their dignity or their belief in justice. Their courage is a form of victory greater than any battlefield conquest. While their homes may be torn down, their faith remains standing. The world may see ruins, but the believer sees resilience. Every act of kindness amid chaos, every prayer uttered in fear, and every smile shared despite hunger are signs of spiritual victory. This kind of triumph cannot be measured in numbers or power, but in strength of character and closeness to the Almighty. The oppressor may take lives, but they cannot take faith, and that faith is the seed of ultimate victory. Righteousness is the path that leads to divine success. Those who oppress may win for a moment, but they lose the essence of humanity. The Almighty promises that truth will always overcome falsehood, even if it takes time. History has proven that every tyrant eventually falls, every empire of cruelty eventually collapses, and every voice of oppression is eventually silenced. What remains are the stories of those who stood for what was right, who endured pain with patience, and who faced death with hope in their hearts. These are the real victors in the sight of the Almighty. Their triumph is not written in worldly records, but in the eternal pages of divine justice. Victory, therefore, is not about overpowering others, but about overcoming the self, the fear, anger, and despair that threaten to weaken faith. When believers continue to do good despite evil around them, when they forgive even while being wrong, when they choose peace over revenge, they have already won. True victory lies in the purity of intention and the steadfastness of faith. It belongs to those who walk the path of justice even when the road is steep and the journey long. In the eyes of the world, they may seem defeated, but in the sight of the Almighty, they have triumphed beyond measure.